Hey guys, welcome to Newsway. I hope you're having a great Wednesday today. There's a lot of stuff to talk about and get into here, so let's just get started. First thing we're going to talk about today is Seiken Densetsu 3. We've talked about this before where we're looking for Secret of Mana to come over, and they announced a collection only for Japan though on the Switch, which kind of left us kind of sad because the box art looks awesome. They're having a full collection of all the different Secret of Mana games, including the first one, which is really cool because you don't really usually see that outside of Japan. And what the problem is now is that there's no clear-cut answer on if it's coming over to the West in an English adaptation. But now we at least know that there is a possibility of this happening. This came courtesy of the M2 president over on Twitter, and they said, English version of Seiken Densetsu 3, if a translation exists, Square Enix would have it, not us. If not, I don't think it's impossible to make one, but we haven't looked into it. If you really want an English version, I think the best chance would be to show Square Enix your enthusiasm. This pretty much says that yes, it's possible. There could be a patch. We already know that there is one if you do homebrew at all or if you got into the repro scene. One already exists, fans made it, but it's up to Square if they want to bring it over, if it's worth it. I actually think at this point, it would sell better in the West than it would in Japan, because keep in mind, this game has already been in Japan. Like, it released on the Super Nintendo, but it never came out here in English, so why wouldn't it sell better here where it's never been, as opposed to in Japan, where it's always been? So this would be a better, I think, strategy for them to release it over here. Of course, if they don't have an English translation and they're not willing to use fan translations, they would have to create one themselves, which would take money and time. They would just have to gauge, is it worth bringing this game over in physical form on the Switch, and would they make their money back? I believe they would. However, I do think there would be a problem selling to the mainstream market. But right now, right this second, the Switch is mostly made up of very dedicated and hardcore fans for the most part. That's not to say there aren't a lot of people who bought it because they enjoy Zelda, but maybe don't enjoy like the JRPGs. But I do think the crowd right now would buy this game, at least in some part, and they would probably get their money back. So if you want them to bring it over, go to Twitter and just kind of yell at Square Enix, hey, you should bring that game over here because it would sell. I would buy a copy. And we talked about earlier in the week how apparently Scorpio was going to be announced at some point this week, at least the specs or an idea of the specs and the power. Just give us more information. Well, it looks like that is correct. Tomorrow, today's Wednesday, so tomorrow, Thursday, 9 a.m. Eastern Time, 6 a.m. Pacific, or 2 p.m. in the United Kingdom, they are going to show this thing off in terms of specs and ability, and this is going to come courtesy of Digital Foundry. Now, I'm not really sure how Digital Foundry got this in. Apparently, Microsoft is going to give them information that they will then put out in a story. It's possible it was like one of those things where they got like it leaked to them, like and it intercepted a message like they did with other stuff. I do think, though, at this point that Microsoft is just giving them the information, and they are going to publish it out there for the world to see. I don't think we'll see any games really playing. I just think we will see a full rundown of the specs, whether it's like GDDR5X RAM, the CPU, and more than likely the GPU classification. Is it Polaris? Is it Vega? You know, what would it be closest to in terms of a desktop video card? So there's a lot of questions to be answered, and I'm looking forward to it. This is tomorrow again in the morning around me. If you're in different parts of the world, you have to see whatever 9 a.m. Eastern Time converts to for you, and that's when you'll be able to see it. I'll do a full rundown on here and what we can expect from the specs that we see. Hopefully it's powerful enough for those 4K images that they keep saying it will push, because once it starts upscaling, it's not any different from the PS4 Pro. And we've been talking about Yooka-Laylee on this channel a good bit. It's a game I've been looking forward to playing, but review embargoes have now gone up, and everyone can now see what reviewers think of this game, and it's kind of weird. It's like some really don't like it, and some like it, and then a lot are kind of in the middle. So it ranges from anywhere with like an 8 out of 10 from Destructoid, and a 7 out of 10 from IGN, all the way down to a 2 out of 10 from Jim Sterling, and other ones are just in the middle. Game Explain said they liked it. And then GameSpot gave it a 6 out of 10. It's all over the place right now, and based on some of the stuff I've read, I don't think every reviewer enjoys the older platform genre. It sounds like there's a lot of like a big collectathon at times, so if you don't like collecting stuff, you may not enjoy it. If you're not a fan of the old, and I mean this really, the old platforming like Mario 64, you may not like it. So before you get Yooka-Laylee, go back, try out Mario 64, and see if that's still something you may want to play, because apparently the old school feel from Banjo-Kazooie, which I'm still fine with, has not changed much. So I'll still get it and play it, obviously. I've been talking about it for a while now, and we'll see what I think. I'm very curious as to how it's going to play, and if it does kind of give me that feeling of Banjo-Kazooie. Now, a lot of the reviewers did say that the ones that didn't like it didn't have the nostalgia glasses for it because they didn't play Banjo-Kazooie much, which might kill it for them. But we'll see. I'll check it out. I'm sure a lot of you guys will still probably end up getting it because it does look like at least a unique game graphically, and really just the feel looks different. So we'll see. That's not out for a little while still, but the review embargoes are up. You can go online and see all the different reviews if you just want to read through them and see what your favorite reviewer or review site gave it. This next one's a good one. I made a video on this last night. You can go check it out if you want a full in-depth look. But essentially Atlus came out and said, look, we don't want you spoiling Persona 5, so we're going to start cutting off streamers from sharing this game. This was done on a blog post on their website. They went down like a full checklist of stuff you can do. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, I've gotten games sent to me on review with embargo stuff. This blog post looks very much like something you would get in terms of a press embargo, which kind of put me off, and I wasn't the only one. There are a lot of people online who are really frustrated with Atlus right now. Now, at the same time, I can see that you want to protect the ending. I understand that completely. Nothing is worse than being spoiled, but the fact that they are essentially threatening channels or groups of people with strikes and suspensions is not good. That's putting it a little too far. You could put a letter out that says, hey, please do not share this stuff and ruin the experience for other people, but now everyone's so mad, they're just going to do it anyway. Now it's worse. You've opened the floodgates to people just doing it out of spite. Like I said, check out my video from yesterday if you want a more in-depth look. It doesn't look good right now in terms of Atlus's image. They're trying so hard to protect this game, but it's been out for months anyway in Japan. You could have looked up the ending a month ago and just watched it if you really wanted to. And we had an in-depth look at how much the Switch probably costs to produce. Now, these were estimated numbers by part type and everything, and how much of any part is in the system. And this was done by a Japanese teardown firm. I'm going to probably say this wrong, Famal Halt, and they did a full thing where they took it apart and they came up with an estimated manufacturing cost of $257. They also went on to say that it's probably sell 30 million units by the end of 2018. I think that might be a little bit of a reach to get the 2018 end of that and have 30 million units sold, because that means that they would have sold 30 million units in less than 2 years, which is a tremendous feat. If they get there, good for Nintendo. I just think that might be reaching a little too much. That might be a bit of a stretch for their goals, but $257 is actually higher, believe it or not, than I thought it would be just to produce the unit. Because keep in mind, there's other stuff that goes into that. You're not just producing the unit and then the stuff goes out to wholesales and it goes out to wholesalers for free. You have to get it to them most times, or you have to do marketing. Those marketing dollars you see at work with John Cena and stuff, those are still technically added into the cost of the system. When they go to the end, those are all expenses for this one system. So that's just how much it costs to make it. That's not everything else that's involved. So it's more than $257 if you really look at it from a business perspective. But the parts inside at $257 actually make sense. There's 2 Joy-Cons, there's HD Rumble, there's NFC, there's Bluetooth. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on. Tegra, there's a custom design for the screen fitting into the board and everything. There's a lot of fabrication going on that's not cheap. As much as people want to say it should be the same price as the Shield TV. No, the Shield TV does not have Joy-Cons. It doesn't have a dock that people say should be worth $30. Well, look, if it's worth $30, that's still added on cost compared to the Shield TV that does not have that. So yes, $257 makes sense. I don't think there'll be a price drop at all because it doesn't make sense to do that. It sells well. And with the games coming out, why would you drop the price? Mario will be out. I'm sure there'll be some big game we don't know about yet, like a Pokemon or a Metroid or something showing up as well, Xenoblade. So why would you drop the price? You don't. It won't be dropped. $257, they're still making profit, just probably not as much as they're used to from what I'm seeing. Again, this doesn't feel like normal Nintendo, and I think their sales figures, it being in the positive, are showing that. We talked about our good friends over at BioWare, how they were going to have a full patch. They put out a teaser for a bug fix patch, which is the most ridiculous thing to say out loud, but they did it anyway. They put that picture on Twitter. We went over it last time on Newswave. Well, it looks like they did hold true to their word, and yesterday they had an entire list of stuff that they need to fix. And this came from BioWare's site. They posted this, of course, on the 4th, so it was yesterday, and they started with a bunch of stuff, including improved tutorial placement, better multiplayer balancing, matchmaking is faster, apparently. There's all stuff they're going to do. They're going to fix the walking animation for Ryder. They're going to do things like change the looks of the human eyes and characters and everything. There's a lot of stuff that needs to go into this. And it begs the question, how ready was this game? And did they start over at some point? Because this is a long list of stuff that feels like should have been done before the game came out. Now, I don't know the full backstory. I don't know if they should have pushed this game back. I don't know what they had to do behind the scenes. Maybe there was some massive issue they ran into with Frostbite and they had to scrap and start everything over. But they're down to improving the lip sync and facial acting during conversations. That's something that should have been ironed out well before the game came out. This should have been something that went through testing constantly, and really they should have looked at this game and pushed it back. It was not ready to come out. I don't know why it's out right now. I really don't. It's become a laughingstock. The game itself, the idea is good. It's just not polished. And it seems like we're going to have to wait for patch after patch after patch before it is a solid, complete game. And that's just bad on BioWare's part. It's almost like they wanted to sell us an incomplete game because they needed to get it out the door. I just hope in the future they don't do this, but after seeing this, I'm really not holding my breath. And this interesting trend of indie games coming out now for the Switch in physical form is still happening. It seems to be increasing actually now with things like the Secret of Mana collection coming out, and of course only in Japan, and the Cave Story now. Cave Story Plus is now launching on the Switch June 20th at $29.99, which is kind of high, but it will be a physically released game that's technically an indie game. This is of course done by Nicholas, so I guess things went well with Binding of Isaac because here comes Cave Story. So this is interesting. I'm curious as to why it's more expensive. I have to assume it's for manufacturing costs because doing things like printing the case, cartridges, all this stuff, distribution, it's not cheap. It really isn't. And I understand it's $14.99 digitally on Steam and other systems, but at this point, you need an extra $15, I guess, to get it out the door. I'll be curious to see how many people actually buy this game physically. I feel like some people will. Cave Story is popular. It's a pretty cool game. I played it a long time ago. I might want to check it out on my Switch. The thing about the Switch, and I'm starting to realize this, not to get too much on a tangent, I'm playing it more because it's portable. I am. Like Has Been Heroes, I don't think I would sit down and play that on a TV as much as I do with my Switch when it's portable. In fact, I'm going to be playing a lot of Persona 5, and I feel like I'm going to be sitting at the TV wishing it was a portable unit that I could play upstairs on the couch or whatever I am. That shouldn't be a knock against Persona, obviously. It's not. But I feel like I'm getting used to the Switch to the point where I can do whatever I want, take it wherever I want, and I can still play my same games. So at this point, I hope all these indie games come to the Switch, and I hope more come to the Switch, just because it's so convenient. Speaking of the Switch, real quick, I wanted to clarify this. The LEGO City Undercover launched yesterday. Does not need a 13 gigabyte download at all. It's all playable on the cart. They do have like a 470-ish meg download for you to patch. No clear indicator on what that does. Some people said it cut out some loading times, but to be completely honest with you guys, and straightforward, loading times are still not very good. They're anywhere from 40 to 50 seconds when going into the big open world for that whole world to populate, I assume, and load into memory. And it still takes a while. It's still 40 to 50 second load. So it's not something that was fixed in this development, unfortunately. But again, you can play it portably, which is really cool. It's still the same great game, just with added benefits of better visuals, co-op, and then so on. So it's still a good game. We don't need that 13 gig download, fortunately, because that would have not been good. If you download it on the marketplace, it is that full 7.1 gigabytes like we saw before. And then you'll be prompted for a 470 megabyte patch that might fix a few things. People will test it more to figure it out. That came out yesterday, so yes, you're free to buy it physically without having to download anything. And our last bit of news comes from the world of Final Fantasy 15, but not in the way you may think. This is going to be a mobile Final Fantasy 15 game that's getting released, and it's going to be in the same vein as like a city building strategy game, which sounds super weird for Final Fantasy 15, but it's going to be made by the same people who made Mobile Strike. So they've already started the soft launch. It's apparently available in New Zealand right now, which is not anywhere else. And I assume they're testing things like servers and gameplay mechanics and balancing and how long does it take to unlock this thing and can we make them wait a little longer to get some extra money out of them without making the game seem broken. That's all the testing that goes into those type of games where it's free to play, but of course you want to pay money to get things unlocked faster. Is that a bad thing? I don't know. I don't play these type of games. To be honest, I've never played really Mobile Strike past maybe the first 5 minutes after getting a new phone and just trying, a game out or something. But I do know there's a lot of people who get really addicted to these games, and this is really looking like Mobile Strike with a Final Fantasy 15 skin. Take that as you will. Maybe you like Mobile Strike and you're happy that Final Fantasy will be kind of skinned on top. I'll have to see how the game plays. There's not a lot out there for me to see. All they say now is you can create guilds, work together, so there's competition at least. I don't know. I'll have to see how this goes. I just know it's not out yet. There's a soft launch right now in New Zealand, and hopefully it will then come out the rest of the world, and we can all see what this Final Fantasy 15 city builder strategy game looks like. And that's it for Newswave today, guys. Make sure you comment, like, and subscribe, all that good stuff. Let me think about anything we talked about today, whether you're excited for the Scorpio reveal. Maybe you have an idea of what it's going to be. If so, leave a prediction down in the comments. I'm really curious to see if any of us can guess the exact specs. I think it'll be really fun on Thursday to go over it and see if it can get to 4K. Let me think about Mass Effect Andromeda, and have you been playing it? Are you a little disappointed that the patch seems to be fixing a lot of stuff that they could have ironed out before they launched the game? Also, let me know what you think of LEGO City Undercover if you picked that one up, or make sure you are contacting right now. Make sure you're contacting Square Enix and saying, "Hey, bring bring the Secret of Mana collection over because we need it outside of Japan. That's it for now, guys. I will see you next time.